Hello kindergartners and first, second, and third graders. It's Mrs. Hilliard here in Occupational Therapy. This is week 3 of Occupational Therapy. It is September 24th, and the session that I'm going to show you today is for next week when I see you on Zoom or Google Meet. So again, I have my 3 bins. I have a coin activity for hand muscle strength and hand skills, and also a craft and writing activity for us today, and then also fasteners. So some of you are working on shoe tying, some on buttoning and snapping and zipping, so you can do any of those, any that you want to work on. All right, so we're going to start with our coins activity. So some of you are working on pincer grasp. So what I have here today is I just took a container and I put a slot in the top. I just cut a slot, and or if you have a piggy bank, that works too. And with coins, we're working on that pincer grasp and proper writing grasp. So the nice thing about placing coins is you address using those same muscles that you would for writing or holding a pencil. So you're just gonna take your coins and you're gonna put them in a container. Whoops. And I have pom-poms too. So any kind of small object that you wanna push in to work on those radial hand skills is great. So make sure your kids are doing one at a time. I have a lot of kids who just want to grab all of the coins like this and put them all in at one time. But really we want to work on picking up individual objects. And once you're done with that, you can take everything out. And for some of my older kids who are working on hand skills and pencil grasp, what I'd like you to do is line up 10 pennies. Let's count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And you're going to put them all heads up. So I don't know if you can see mine. Whoops. But they're heads up. And what you're going to do is left to right as fast as you can. You're going to turn those pennies to tails. So ready, set, go. We're working on finger dexterity and working left to right, which is a very important skill for reading and visual tracking. Good job. So you can do that again and turn them back. And good job. So also what you can do with coins is you can just work with one coin. And one of the things that we do in OT is work on getting a coin from the very center of our hand to the tips of our fingers without turning our hand over. So a lot of kids will go like this and try to pick it up, but really I want them to work on translating the coin from the palm of the hand to the tips of the fingers. And then when you get really good at that, you can practice turning the coin in the tips of your fingers. So there's a lot we can do with coins for hand skills. You guys did a great job with that. We're going to move on to the next activity. So today I have a cutting and tracing activity and then a writing activity. For back to school, we're going to do a little red schoolhouse. So you will need blue paper or any kind of background color for your schoolhouse, a red paper, and a sheet of white paper. The other thing you'll need is something to trace, something square. So I happen to have this household item, onion soup mix to trace. And you'll need your scissors, glue, and a marker. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is take our red sheet of paper and take our square template and trace it for our schoolhouse. So this is great because it works on using a stabilizing hand. We all need to stabilize our papers for writing, and some kids don't do that. So this is good practice keeping that hand down, that non-dominant hand. I'll trace the square. And then some kids are still practicing drawing shapes. So what I want them to do is to draw a triangle on top. So I drew the dots first to connect. You can do that to help your student. And make a nice big triangle. All right. Now we're going to practice cutting out those shapes. So for kids who don't show hand preference with scissors, put them in the center of the table. Take their thumb, goes in the little hole, and pick up the scissors to put the rest of your fingers in the big hole. Make sure your thumbs stay up. So I worked with a lot of kids last week that tend to turn their thumb in. So what you can do as a parent is you can hold their wrist so in neutral back here, and then they can cut more easily when their wrist is stabilized. So it's easier than trying to put your hand on top of theirs. So we're gonna cut out those two shapes. We got our square. Remember, when you get to a corner, stop and turn the paper. I find myself saying that a lot. Stop and turn the paper. Some kids will try to cut all the way around the shape just by moving their hand, and that makes it difficult. So they really need to learn to rotate the paper. We have two shapes, a square and a triangle. So now we're going to glue. So we're going to put an X where we want the glue. I'll put one at the bottom and one at the top. We get to put our little red schoolhouse together. And a little extra glue to keep the corners down. All right, and this is a good visual spatial exercise to get your child to try to match my schoolhouse. It's kind of like doing a puzzle, which way to position the shapes in space. So we have our schoolhouse, and then what you're going to do is you're going to need one strip of white paper. So you can see I drew one here already. You can always put dots down to connect, to draw a line. And then we're going to cut on that line. And a strip of white paper. And then what you can do is you can cut your windows. So you're going to cut little squares. And then you want to cut a bigger piece for your doorway for your house. So you should have two little squares and then a bigger doorway. And again, we're going to mark where we want glue to go for our windows and our door. Put the glue on the X's. And eventually you could take this visual cue away of putting X's down, but I think for early learners it really helps. We're going to put our door on, and then we're going to put our windows on. And then the next activity I like, because a lot of kids are working on crossing visual midline or making an X. So I see a lot of kids, when they make an X, they might look like this, or they don't cross visual midline. So we really want to get them to cross across the middle when drawing an X. So the way to do that again is with those visual cue points. So we're going to put some window panes on our windows. So you can draw a dot here and here for a line down. And then they have to cross visual midline to make that line across. And we'll do that on the other side. And then for the doorway, we just need a straight line down. And two little dots for our door handle. So a lot of kids too have sight words or letter recognition goals. So we're gonna write the word school on top to reinforce those skills. And then if you want, you can decorate your schoolhouse. So you can add grass with a green marker or some clouds in the sky with cotton balls. Tearing cotton balls is always a good fine motor activity. I put some grass. And then always make sure your name is on the paper. So sometimes you have to write in a line so kids can sequence their letters properly and keep them in a reasonable space. And you made your schoolhouse. So the next exercise is for writing. So I have my poem again. I'm going to read it to you. It's called Back to School. Back to school. Pencils, glue, paper, and books. My backpack is filled to the top. I grab my lunch and gym shoes and make my way to the bus stop. I get to school and walk in. Walls are decorated. It's cool. I find my desk with my name. I am ready for back to school. So I'm going to hold that up so you can copy it. And also for some of you, we're working on line utilization and letter spacing. So you can use your homemade highlight paper. All you need is a highlighter to highlight lines and make sure you skip a line in between. And then encourage your child to write in the yellow. So I'm going to hold that up just for a minute, and you can always pause the frame to copy it. All right. Again, if you didn't have enough time, you can pause the frame. I'm going to take off my shoe so we can practice shoe tying. Whoops. We're all done with our craft and writing activity. So I was telling some parents last week, I like to put a piece of paper down so we don't have to put our dirty shoe on the table. So you're going to have your child actually have the shoe on the table flat. And then we're going to practice that adaptive shoe tying. So make sure you leave that hole on top where they can plug in. And you want to make sure your shoelaces are a little bit newer and still have that plastic end so they can put it into the hole more easily. They're not going to pull it all the way through. It's just an anchor. So we call it put in your anchors. And then you have your 2 bunny ears. And this is the hardest part. Kids want to hold the bunny ear with their whole hand, so you really want to encourage pinch and pinch. And you can even take like a little red marker or a colored marker and mark the shoelaces here and here where they have to crisscross and make an X. And the lace that is closest to them is going to jump down through the tunnel and pull. And then we're going to pull those bunny ears up again. You can grab your laces with your pincers. Crisscross, save that space underneath. The one behind goes down through the tunnel and pull. Good job. And then our regular standard shoe tying method, just do one step at a time. So if you just are working on the first knot, just work on that until you have it down pat and then move on to the next step. So we're going to pick our laces up, let them fall, crisscross, pull them up. Look for that X, the one that's behind, goes down through the tunnel. And then you're going to make a bunny ear, pinch. And then if you have to, tie a knot right here in this shoelace and take that knot and fly it all the way around. We call that loop, swoop, and you're going to push it down through the tunnel. It's helpful to have that knot and pull. So this is a really complex task. Be patient. Your child will get it. So I think the most important part is just to find time each day to work on it, even if it's for 2 minutes, and you'll see a difference, I promise. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a great weekend. I will see you next week in our live session, and take care.